Would you still help your mother if you thought she had nothing left to give? Before we dive into this unforgettable story of betrayal, resilience, and redemption, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who needs a reminder of what unconditional love looks like. Let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Her son kicked her out when he found out she'd lost her job, but he had no idea she had a secret fortune. Eleanor didn't say a word as she closed the small wooden door behind her. The sound of the latch clicking seemed louder than it should have. Her hands trembled as she clutched the worn leather handle of her suitcase, not because she was cold, but because she was holding back the kind of tears that come only from betrayal. Her son, James, stood in the doorway with his arms crossed. His wife, Brooke, was just behind him, silent, smug, like someone who'd finally won an argument. Their home, once filled with warm greens and golden yellows, now felt like ice. The shutters were closed, though the afternoon sun still poured down outside. "You should have told us, Ma," James had said just moments earlier. "You've been eating our food, sitting here all day doing nothing." Eleanor had blinked. "I was resting. I'm not well. I didn't want to worry you." "Not well or not working," Brooke chimed in. "We're struggling, James. We can't afford to carry your mother too. It's not fair." James didn't argue. He didn't defend the woman who had raised him alone after his father's death, who cleaned motel rooms and skipped meals so he could have textbooks. He just said, "It's time you figured out your own way. We've got kids to raise." And that was it. No hug, no thank you. Just the sound of her suitcase wheels dragging over the cracked pavement as she walked away. Eleanor didn't cry, not then, not even when she reached the old bus bench 3 blocks over and sat down. The weight of 72 years pressed into her spine. What James didn't know was that she hadn't been fired. She had resigned. Her back had been giving out, and the doctor warned her to stop lifting boxes. Though the church had begged her to stay, she quietly stepped away. She knew how to survive with little. She had done it all her life. But she never thought losing a part-time job would cost her everything else too. As she sat on that bench watching cars pass, she thought about the house James now lived in. It had once been hers, paid off with decades of sacrifice. She had signed it over when he promised to take care of her forever. Forever had ended fast. Still, Eleanor felt no bitterness, because she had a secret, one no one, not even James, knew. 34 years earlier, when Eleanor's husband died in a factory accident, the insurance payout had been modest. But hidden in the paperwork was a deed, land deep in the countryside left to them by an uncle they'd never met. No water, no road, no value. Everyone told her to sell it. She didn't. Every year she scraped together just enough to pay the taxes on it, even when she had nothing else. She held on just in case. Last fall, someone came asking. A young man in a sharp suit said a developer was buying up rural land for a solar energy project. He made her an offer that nearly knocked her off her chair. She asked for it to be kept private. The funds, $1.4 million, were transferred to a trust managed by a local faith foundation in her late husband's name. Only Eleanor could access it. To the world, to her family, she was still just Mama Ellie with her apron and her empty purse. But in that purse, the morning she walked away from James' house, was a checkbook and a bank card linked to a fortune. That night, Eleanor stayed in a women's shelter, not because she had to, but because she wanted to be among people who understood what it meant to be overlooked. She shared her food, she listened, she smiled when others couldn't. The next day, she visited a small property on the edge of town, a broken-down cottage with cracked walls, a leaking roof, and weeds as tall as her waist. She paid cash. 3 weeks later, it was quietly restored under the name Hopewood Holdings, LLC. No one knew it was hers. No one asked. She moved in with peace in her heart and a plan in her mind. She didn't want revenge. She wanted to build something that would never throw anyone away. 2 years passed. James' life changed, but not the way he expected. The house he'd once boasted about, her old house, went into foreclosure. He tried side hustles, warehouse jobs, even shady online schemes. But between debt, a collapsing marriage, and poor decisions, everything slipped away. Brooke eventually left, taking their 2 sons with her. The silence that followed was louder than any fight they'd ever had. That winter, James sat on a borrowed cot in a friend's basement, staring at a flyer he'd picked up at the public library. It read, Ellie's Place. Hot meals, shelter, and support for families in need. He blinked. Ellie? It couldn't be. But something inside stirred, a quiet shame, a flicker of hope. The next morning, he walked across town. The building was beautiful in a humble way. Fresh paint, sunflowers by the door, a carved wooden sign above the entrance. Inside, the scent of fresh bread and warm soup filled the air. Children laughed nearby. Volunteers moved with gentle purpose. And behind the reception desk, in a soft beige sweater, sat a familiar figure. Older, wiser, peaceful. Mama, he whispered. Eleanor looked up, surprised, but not shaken. She stood and came around the desk. Her eyes met his. He looked down. The words poured out. I lost the house. Brooke's gone. I have nothing, Mama. I didn't know where else to go. She let the silence breathe, then gently said, Come inside. You look cold. They sat across from each other at a small wooden table. James looked around, amazed. This place? It's yours? She nodded. When you left, I thought you had nothing. I had peace, she said, and enough. He gripped the warm mug she gave him. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say you had money? She looked at him carefully. Would it have changed anything? He didn't answer. I needed to know, she said. Who'd stay close when I had nothing to offer? That's how I knew who to build for. I was awful to you, he said. You trusted me, and I threw you out. She reached across the table and took his hand. You forgot yourself. That doesn't mean you can't find your way back. Tears fell, quiet ones. He didn't deserve her grace, but she gave it anyway. That spring, James began volunteering at Ellie's Place. He fixed furniture, helped cook meals, and eventually earned a position managing supplies. But more than that, he rebuilt his relationship with his mother. Every Friday, they'd sit on the porch at sunset watching the kids play. One evening, Eleanor handed him a worn envelope. Inside was the original deed to the house she had once signed over, and the check from the land sale, now voided but framed. You don't owe me anything, she said, but now you know what happens when love comes before pride. He looked at her, and for the first time in years, truly saw her, not as a parent, not as a burden, but as the woman who had built an empire of kindness from the ashes of rejection. Years later, when Eleanor passed peacefully in her sleep, hundreds came to her funeral. People from shelters, schools, food pantries, and churches. No gold casket, no headlines, just stories. Stories of the woman who had nothing and gave everything. And James? He stood before the crowd holding her favorite apron and said softly, My mother left her home once with a suitcase and a quiet heart. And in that silence, she built something greater than any of us ever knew. She didn't just feed people, she forgave them. Behind him, above the entrance to Ellie's Place, were the words she once carved herself. The doors that close behind you can never compare to the ones you open for others. And James, once lost in bitterness, had become the man she always believed he could be. All because the woman he cast out chose love over revenge. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. Drop a comment below and tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, And never underestimate a quiet heart.